Sometimes the things that you don't know will surprise you. Like, for example, did you know that it's it's Update Monday? Of course you knew. What's going on with your big dog? It is an amazing Monday. I hope that you're having a great Monday as well. As you guys should know, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks of kicking rheumatoid arthritis' ass. But on the real tip, you know so much about me. It's kind of crazy. You know more than a lot of family members know, but you don't know me. Like, seriously, you know that I have RA, you know that I play football, you know that I love Yu-Gi-Oh, you know that I work out. But do you even know my name? Weird, right? When I first started Update Mondays, I was nervous as all hell because I was telling you information that I wasn't really comfortable with, information that I tell nobody. But over time, it's become really cool to talk to you about these things. So allow me to introduce myself because I notice a lot of you guys call me TheCaliEffect. My name is Leon. I was born in Los Angeles, California. To be more specific, I was born in Compton. Don't run away. Don't click away. No. I was raised in a lot of parts that necessarily weren't good for children, but I think one of the most prominent places that changed my life was I was raised in Watts, California. I have 3 biological sisters, no brothers, but by marriage, I have an additional sister. She's a sister, right? We have an ongoing joke where I call her my broster because she's a lesbian, but you know, she's still my bro to me because she grew up playing football with me, all right? And then I also have a baby brother. My father was in and out of my life until I had an incident at school, which led him to physically abuse me. Like, when I mean he beat my ass, dog, he beat my ass. Like, it's the type of ass whoopings that make you grow up to be a school shooter type of ass whoopings. Dog, I had to go to the hospital, it was terrible. And I know it seems really bad, but it's funny when I look back at it. Not a ha-ha funny, like, it's funny that I get to actually tell you this type of information and I don't really feel anything about it. Me and my father actually talk here and there now. I don't have anything against him. I just think he should do a lot better with his life because dude's a fucking genius, but he just wastes it away. You could say that I technically grew up in a single parent household, but that's not necessarily true. I was raised by my sister. My mother was doing things. I don't know why you thought that I'd have like this nice life that, you know, I had a family and stuff. And while a lot of people had grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, and all that other crazy stuff, my entire family was on drugs, like hard drugs. The crack epidemic that happened in the 70s and 80s and 90s, yeah, that destroyed my family. So without going into too many stories, that pretty much sums up my entire childhood. So yeah, what you don't know can actually take you by surprise. So I guess that's one thing you may or may not have known. My life was never really easy. It was extremely hard. And that's why I appreciate being able to talk to you about my life, and hopefully I can inspire you to do better because everybody can do better and get where they want to be. And that's exactly what I mean about these particular rogue decks. They're just like me. They didn't necessarily have the best start, but it doesn't matter. They can have a really strong finish, as some of these decks are above that rogue tier status, as evidenced in my meta tier list. That's right, big dog. These rogue strategies play with a lot of heart. And I gotta tell you that there are some strategies that you should seriously consider playing inside of this format. So not only will I be able to tell you about these top 5 rogue decks, I'll also be able to tell you what advantages that they have over the popular decks or why they are so powerful. So without further ado, let's jump on in and start talking about why these are some really good decks. So I was actually born on September 20th, 1992. That makes me roughly 29 years old. And yes, I'm a Yu-Gi boomer. I'm proud of it. One thing that I really did enjoy growing up was the Invasion of Chaos set. That's something you Yu-Gi Zoomers don't know about, because Grin Maju not only was a pivotal card at the time, it still serves to be a pivotal card to this day. The Grin Maju strategy is based on summoning that exact monster. Grin Maju gains 400 attack for each one of your banished cards and doesn't really care if they're face up, face down, sideways, unsideways, or anywhere else. It reminds me of that one meme where Mr. Incredible slams his hand on the desk. Banished is banished! It's pretty funny. The interesting thing about Grin Maju is that it doesn't care about these combo decks like Drytron. It doesn't matter if you summon Herald of Perfection to your side of the field or Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, Grin Maju is a monster that doesn't activate, so not only does it bypass those monsters being able to negate it, it can typically be summoned to at least 4,000 attack, which easily gets over those monsters. Grand Maju almost naturally packs anti-measures for decks like Drytron, but what can it do against some of the other top decks? Well, seeing that a lot of decks in this format are really reliant on the graveyard, and Grand Maju actually gains from having cards banished, monsters like Dimensional Shifter or Macrocosmos not only allows you to set up your strategy, but it really hurts some of the top decks in this meta. Grand Maju is an incredible rogue strategy that just doesn't get enough hype, and with multiple ways to play it, I don't think that you'll be bored of the strategy anytime soon. Now, a secret that I've been keeping from you guys, don't know why, is Sabrina isn't actually my girlfriend. She's been my wife for 10 years, and this month will be our 10-month anniversary. We even have 2 kids. Now, I know for some, being a husband and a father of 2 can make you literally brain dead from time to time, but I actually like being a zombie, and that just so happens to be one of the most powerful rogue decks inside of this format. Zombie decks are really powerful when tribal decks are most prevalent. Strategies like Tri-Brigade will really struggle with a zombie world face-up, as not only does it prevent them from doing what they want to do, and until zombie world is dealt with, strategies like that are really going to struggle, seeing that they're going to need their archetype to be exactly what their archetype is instead of zombie. Now, just when you thought that Zombie World could only affect tribal decks, there's also another card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That pairs really well with Zombie Worlds if you are playing a zombie deck. Rivalry of the Warlords prevents players from owning more than one type of monster on the field, and if you aren't playing a zombie deck, having the combination of Zombie World and Rivalry of the Warlords will prevent you from playing monsters unless they are initially zombie. Now, this can pretty much prevent your opponent from making any type of board, even if they aren't playing tribal. But what do you do when a board is already established? Well, no worries, Zombie has that pretty much pinned down too. Super Polymerization can fuse those newly turned zombie monsters on your opponent's side of the field to Dragon, Necro, Nether Soul, Dragon. Now, people are sleeping on Zombie World. It actually did get a lot more powerful with Ready Fusion being able to provide the extenders that it needs. The Zombie World combo can definitely thrive inside of this format and dominate some of the top tier decks. Now, through hard work, dedication, plus patience, I was actually able to buy a house off of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This sets up me, Sabrina, and the rest of my family, at least for the foreseeable future at the very least, but hopefully it's long-term generational wealth. One thing that really drives Sabrina is that she thinks that there's a ghost in this house. I like to fool around and say, hey, if it's a ghost, it probably plays one of the better decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And unfortunately it's considered rogue, but it might be a good thing, as Altergeist is not only a strategy that can dominate at the top facets of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, it's a strategy that has every deck's weakness built inside of it. Take, for example, inside of this format where monster effect negation is extremely important, while Altergeist can not only negate your monster effect with infinite impermanence, it also gets a free Altergeist multi-faker to the side of the field, which will summon another monster to be able to continuously disrupt. The deck also has Altergeist Protocol, which not only can further negate monster effects, it's to make sure your monsters can't be negated either. So while you are using those cards to negate your opponent's monster effects, your opponent can't even respond by negating your monster effects. Kinda cool, right? But that's not even where Altergeist stops. This is the perfect storm of a format for this particular deck, because since spell cards like Lightning Storm and Forbidden Droplets are just so popular, Secret Village of the Spellcasters is a card that the Altergeist strategy can not only play, it does it extremely well. I definitely think that you should be taking advantage of Altergeist right now. This is an extremely powerful rogue deck, as people want to say it, that can take advantage of some of the top matchups like Tri-Brigade. Them needing their effects are very important, and them having those blowout spell cards to allow them to play the game is equally as important. This deck literally does not care about either of those and can play through them. Now, one of my favorite hobbies is obviously Yu-Gi-Oh, but I also enjoy to work out, play football, as you pretty much have seen in a lot of my videos. I like to write music, I like to ride my bike, and I also like to mentor or provide mentorship to people. Having a role model is something that I didn't have growing up, so I actually like to use that energy that I got from not having a role model to swing the pendulum back into other people's favors that were potentially in a situation that I am in, or was in. You heard pendulum, so that's what we're talking about. In particular, Pendulum Magician actually received a huge boost from the Forbidden list. I didn't necessarily think that receiving Performapal Scroll Crowbout Joker and Double Iris Magician off the Forbidden list would be huge, but it's actually a lot better than expected. What's really cool about Pendulum is that making cards like Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess not only serves as a way to deader off your opponent's hand traps, it's also a card that has link arrows pointing down, 3 of them to be exact, so you can summon those Pendulum monsters to your side of the field a little bit easier. Also, one of the most underrated things about Pendulum Magician is Time and Space Pendulumograph. These cards are completely amazing, providing something that Pendulum desperately needs, a way to continuously gain advantage and also a huge disruption. What's also really cool is seeing that your Pendulum cards are spell and trap cards within the spell and trap card zone. Being able to make Selene Master of Magicians can be really easy, as you already start off with 2 spell counters by occupying that Pendulum zone. That means monsters like Access Code Talker can be made fairly easily. All you have to do is make Kristan Hawklify bricks, and we already know that there's Pendulum Magician tuner monsters, right? Now, before I talk about this last strategy, I just wanted to say there are so many other strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! That can compete that are in that Rogue status. I just did a profile on Earth Machine. I consider it a little higher than Rogue, but definitely is in that Rogue spot if you go by representation. It's a really good deck. And then there are some other awesome decks like Infernoble or Paleozoic that just didn't make the cut this time. Actually, if you want to help the community, if you can list some decks that you think are Rogue and really powerful that could beat the meta, go ahead. Also, be sure to list why you think these decks are rogue and why you think these decks can beat particular decks in the meta. The last strategy I want to bring to your attention has gotten fairly cheaper due to the 2021 Megatins, so this rogue strategy can actually fuel the dual purpose of being on a budget. Phantom Knights are a very powerful strategy that made their debut some time ago and then got support inside of Phantom Rage. Basically, how this strategy works is that you keep summoning level 3 monsters to your side of the field and pop off, king! Your Phantom Knight monsters like Ancient Cloak and Silent Boots serve for double purposes, being a Phantom Knight monster that can be special summoned to your side of the field with trap cards, as well as level 3 monsters to make some of your powerful rank monsters, but on top of that, they can banish themselves for the graveyard to be able to search important spells, traps, or monsters from your deck to your hand. Take, for example, your main disruption card in Phantom Knight's Fogblade. Not only can this negate a monster and prevent it from attacking, you can also use it defensively on one of your own monsters, preventing your opponents from attacking into your monsters, meaning that sometimes they won't be able to attack. This deck has built a reputation for being able to summon huge monsters like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon and Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, which are excellent forms of disruption, but what a lot of players sleep on is some other niche cards that it can summon. Monsters like Dark Requiem Exceed often get skipped over in favor of those other cards that are fairly generic, but not only can this card negate an opponent's monster effect, it can special summon an Exceed monster from your graveyard to your side of the field. Ugh. This strategy is really good for those monster reliant type strategies like Tri-Brigade. I know it feels like I'm picking on it, but it's going to be extremely hard for a deck like Tri-Brigade to play through 11 monster negates. I know, 11 does seem over exaggerated, but once you pass 4, which this deck can do very well, it almost feels like 11, right? Well, that is all that I have for the top rogue decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! I genuinely think that you should give these strategies a try. Now, of course, I will be playing some of these strategies on Twitch. I actually want to know which strategy would you be most excited to see a deck profile of. Also, be sure to check out these videos, as I'll catch you on the next one.